You know what I really love? I love the inflation.
It is so over. Guys, we're going to break down a clip that is going viral, to say the very least, and is going to haunt Trump and the Republicans, and is just making me pull my hair out as somebody who was critical of Democrats for much of the exact thing that's going on right now. We're going to go through all of this and so much more on today's solo episode of the podcast. Stay tuned, because coming out tomorrow, I'm going to have an interview with the ultra-controversial left-wing journalist Taylor Lorenz. We're going to hash out some of her most controversial takes, and I'm looking forward to that. But for today, we're rocking it solo, and we're going to talk about the clip from President Trump that is breaking the internet and already being cut into a gazillion attack ads as we speak. Without further ado, I'm just going to roll the clip in its context, not just the short snippet, and then you guys can join me as we analyze it and cover some of the fallout as well. Here we go.
Are you concerned, Mr. President, about the latest inflation number which came out this morning? Could that be a
No, I love it. The numbers were great. You know what I really love? I love the inflation. You know why?
What?
Because as soon as this war is over, I can say it now. Something you didn't know. Do you know we've been taking out millions of barrels of oil? Nobody knows it. You know who doesn't know about it? Iran, until right now. We took out the other night 22 ships, late at night with no lights, because they don't have any radar, because we blasted the crap out of it. We took out, that's why oil's $85 a barrel. I mean, you take a look. Remember when I did this, I said, look, the one bad thing will be we hit the best economy we've ever hit. And I said to my people, I had Scott, I had Howard, I had Pete, I had all of them. I had Todd in the room. I said, the one thing we have to do now, we had just hit the highest stock market in history, highest 401ks in history. Everything was going well. And I said, I hate to do this to you guys, but Iran's going to have a nuclear weapon very soon. We have to go and attack. So we hit them with the B-2 bombers.
So there it is. That is the clip, and I included the context, not just the 6-second snip out that is going viral and is going to haunt the Republicans for sure. The I love inflation. I included the rest of the context, some of which puts it in the context of the Iran war, but I'm not really sure helps too much. And also, I think it's worth noting that when he says we had the best economy ever before the war and disrupted prices and caused the increase that we're seeing, that might be true as far as stock market highs go, but there's a lot more to the economy than just the stock market. And economic growth wise, just many other metrics, you would not say that it was the best economy ever before the war broke out, or Trump started the war rather. And the context here is that some pretty harsh numbers just came in with inflation surging up. So here's the headline from Reason. Inflation reaches 4.2% as prices outpace paychecks. The Iran war and Trump's tariffs are pushing prices higher, and neither will be easy to undo. So the statistic there is that on Wednesday morning, the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, reported that inflation has climbed 4.2% over the past 12 months, thanks in large part to a sharp increase in prices, fuel prices in particular, since the start of the Iran war in March. With prices rising faster than wages, the BLS also reported on Wednesday that, quote, real average hourly earnings, that is, wage growth once you account for inflation, were down by 0.3% in May. So I'll try to translate that for, non-technical, non-economics folks. Basically, the latest consumer price index data was just released. And this is a bundle of prices that average consumers use. So like food away from home, fuel, housing costs, these kinds of things that they track. And they reported that as of this past month, there was an increase. And when you look at the past 12 months, prices have increased 4.2%. Now, that is notable because it's significantly up from what it was when Trump entered office after promising to bring prices down. Instead, they're still increasing, and they're increasing at a higher rate. And it's notable because it is actually higher than wage growth, which means that as far as effective economic realities are concerned, because what matters is not, the price on or the number on your paycheck, but what it can buy you, people have gotten worse off over that time period. That is very, very, very bad data. Yet you have Trump on camera saying that he loves the numbers and loves inflation. I don't know how to explain to you that that is an optic nightmare, that that is a catastrophic own goal. And it's just another reason why the midterm elections may already be over at this point. It looks very, very likely that Republicans are going to lose the House. When we look at the odds from our channel partners at Kalshi, people think there's a 79% chance that the Democratic Party will win control of the House of Representatives. And that, of course, will mean potential impeachments and roadblocks for anything Trump wants to get done. And there's only a 21% chance the Republican Party retains control. You can see these markets responding in real time. That's one of the cool things about Kalshi, the first CFTC regulated exchange dedicated to trading on the outcome of future events, and a channel partner, of course, a channel sponsor. That's one of the cool things. You can see the odds change in real time as news comes out. And it's not surprising. It won't surprise me if these odds change a little bit or get a little bit worse for Republicans because of this, but things are already quite bleak. Now, if you want to get in on the action, you can use code BRADP when you sign up to get $20 free when you trade $20. But regardless, thanks to Kalshi for sponsoring the channel, and we will be looking at these odds more in the future as well as they change with further developments. Now, I'm struck with Trump's comments and just the absolute word salad of it all, how sharply it contrasts with the positions that Republicans and many people in right-wing media, myself included, took during the Biden years, where inflation was a huge problem, though it came down pretty significantly by the end of the presidency. At some points, it was even much higher than the 4.2%. But we were constantly saying it was at least in part President Biden's fault, which I still think is true. He pushed through wasteful stimulus spending that went above and beyond and probably made the inflation worse. There are all sorts of things that go into it, and some of it was probably going to happen anyway, but I do think his policies worsened the problem. But that whole time, Republicans insisted that affordability needed to be the focus, that bringing down inflation, bringing down prices was a key focus. And here we are. We have President Trump laughing it off and saying he loves it. When President Biden said things that were out of touch, like when many of his officials said, oh, inflation's just going to be transitory or temporary, or when he would talk about how there is an amazing economy, even though people were actually struggling, he got roasted for that. And it went over terribly politically with voters and the public to have the president getting up there and saying things are amazing when they're actually feeling the strain at the gas pump or at the grocery store. People hate that. They despise it with a passion. They'd rather that you be honest with them and say, like, hey, things are rough. I know, we're working on it, than to say, things are rosy. Things are amazing. People just don't understand. People despise that for understandable reasons. And I think people will hate how this is going over. I was struck by comments that former representative, who she's now left Congress, but she was for a long time ultra MAGA, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she made some comments on CNN that I thought, whatever you think of her, and I've been a critic of her for a long time, I think what she said is obviously true. Let's listen.
I'm surprised to hear him say that he loves inflation.
Yeah, I found that shocking. You know, I remember during the Biden administration, that was one of the biggest issues that MAGA, all of us, would scream at the top of our lungs about, and we called it Biden inflation. And the president campaigned against Joe Biden because of the inflation that happened while the Democrats were in control back in 2022, 2023. But hear the president say today that he loves inflation is absolutely outrageous. And that's a punch in the gut to every single American that is struggling to pay their bills, struggling to pay grocery prices, and struggling to basically keep up while their credit card debt is mounting and mounting. You know, it's pretty hard to take from a billionaire president when he says he loves inflation brought on the American people because of a war that he decided to pursue. And, you know, that one's going to come back and bite him. He basically just handed the Democrats a great big campaign ad for the 2026 midterms.
I mean, listen, I don't agree with her on a lot of things, but what Marjorie Taylor Greene says there just seems obviously true to me when I analyze the situation from not a partisan lens, right? I'm not for a long time, I considered myself more Republican leaning. Now I just consider myself independent, but I'm certainly no fan of the Democrats or supporter of the Democrats. When I analyze this situation, what she says here rings true to me, and she is absolutely correct that even if you can argue, well, what Trump really meant was, or, well, he was saying this, in politics, that doesn't actually matter. What matters is, the soundbite. And the soundbite here is already being cut into catastrophically damning ads for the Trump administration. They've already released one. The Democrats have. Here, I'll roll it.
You know what I really love? I love the inflation. We can't take care of daycare. We're a big country. We're fighting wars. We can't take care of daycare.
I don't think about Americans' financial situation.
I love the inflation. You know why?
Sorry, that ad is going to be very, very effective because people are seeing these insanely high gas prices. They're seeing prices increase when Trump promised they would decrease. And yet he's out here dropping these sound bites that even if you can contextualize them in some cases, like the one where he says, I don't think about Americans' financial situations, he was saying in regards to deciding what he's going to do about the war, because he's saying, well, I only consider national security, not that. Now, even if that is at least somewhat an intellectually defensible premise, the soundbite sounds terrible, especially when you combine it with the I love inflation soundbite, which that one really, the full context doesn't make it better. I'm sorry, it doesn't. He rambles about the war and stuff, but it's just an insane thing to say, an absolutely insane thing to say. And it also, as Trump often does, puts his Republican allies in a terrible position where they have to try to defend or explain these crazy remarks that cut against everything they're supposed to be doing and working on. Here is Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, asked about these comments and trying to do damage control, but spoiler alert, it's not going great. Let's listen.
Mr. Speaker, the president said today, I love the inflation amid these high economic...
I knew somebody was going to ask me that. It was totally out of context. You know what he was talking about.
Is that the message that voters want to hear right now?
No. The president is laser focused on the domestic economic situation. He is working to bring down prices. He is working to get the Strait of Hormuz reopened. We have passed legislation. He's used executive orders to get the cost of living down.
What about the economic today?
Everybody got their highest tax refunds they've had in their whole lives. They're getting greater paychecks. There's all sorts of great economic indicators, but there's still challenges, gas prices among them. So what he was saying is it's going to be great to have that number and compare it to what comes next when we get these situations resolved. That'll be a fun thing to consider and to compare. That's what he was talking about. That was the context.
This clip is just amazing because it is just partisan politics in a nutshell. I mean, there's some true things in there that Mike Johnson points out, like the fact that they passed tax cuts that will benefit a lot of Americans. But to say, well, I was there, and the context is that he was saying that the number is going to look great compared to what comes next. First off, still doesn't make the number good. And he's saying we've signed executive orders to bring the cost of living down. Clearly, it hasn't worked because prices are up over the last year and they've outstripped wage gains. So whatever you're doing is not successful, even if you've tried. And then what's really funny to me is that just ask yourself this. And I think if you're intellectually honest, the answer here is clear. If President Biden had said, I love inflation in literally any context, with any surrounding context, would Mike Johnson be out here saying, well, what he really meant was, or I was there, and the context is that he just wants this number as a comparison? No. We all know that Mike Johnson would be out there holding a press conference saying how disgraceful and disgusting it is that President Biden would say such a thing when Americans are, and then many of the Democrats who are currently castigating Trump would be saying, well, the context, what? And see how it's all just bull. Like, see how it's, at the end of the day, it's all just partisan politics and tribalism, and these people, most of them are not being honest or working to actually improve the situation of Americans. That's why what I find so sickening about all of it, honestly. I consider the current state of our politics to be toxic beyond belief, and the kind of hypocrisy that you'll see here, the total flip-flopping, is a great example of that. But it doesn't change the political reality that these comments are the worst possible thing Trump could have said, and may just be kind of a nail in the coffin, politically speaking, when it comes to the Republicans' prospects in the midterm elections. And I'm going to play a clip here from CNN pollster Harry Enten that just sums up how damning and how terribly Republicans are being perceived right now on these issues. Let's watch.
If I'm an American, based upon the polling I'm seeing, I hear the president go, what the heck did I just hear? What the heck is going on? One of the most politically tone-deaf statements I've ever heard, and you can see it in the numbers right here. Americans don't like the inflation. They hate the inflation. They don't love the inflation. They hate the inflation. Inflation net approval, minus 50 points or worse, 50 points underwater or worse. Total polls for president.
50 is
Trump
crazy.
in 2026, already at least eight polls in which his net approval rating on inflation or the cost of living is negative 50 points or worse. Every other president in every other year, the answer is 0. Trump is not only the first one to reach negative 50 points or worse net approval rating on inflation, he's done it many of times. So when I hear Trump's statement, I feel like Mrs. White and Klug going, what is happening here? How about an 80% disapproval on gas prices, which of course is fueling this frustration with inflation? Take a look here. The only president with an 80% disapproval rating on gas prices of all time is Trump. In 2026, you can see Trump there. He's pointing the arrow to it. Yes, he has done it. This Iran war has done it. It has fueled record frustration on inflation and record frustration when it comes to gas prices. The only president ever with at least an 80% disapproval rating on gas prices, Donald John Trump, in this year, 2026.
Well, damn, when you put it like that, he's doing amazing. Now, what I'll say is, like, you could say, oh, it's CNN, they hate Trump, what have you, but Trump himself has touted Harry Enten, this exact guy, when he's gone through polls that are favorable to Trump. So there's a little bit of a fair weather selection bias there. And then the other thing is, as well, what he's doing is reporting on and summarizing polls that are not actually performed by CNN. So those underlying polls are all performed by different groups, some of which might have a more liberal-leaning bias, but some of which don't. And even Fox News polls find the president deeply underwater on issues like affordability and inflation and gas prices. And even if there was some, margin by which these polls are skewed, even if you half these numbers or take away 30% of it, it's like there is no denying the situation here is terrible, right, for the optics and the perception of this president. And I come back to the idea that he kind of set himself up for failure by making unrealistic promises. I mean, what he promised during the presidential campaign, and you can go back and look this up, and I guarantee you the fact-checking site or Grok or Perplexity or whatever AI it is that you use will confirm that I'm telling you the truth. President Trump repeatedly promised when running for president that prices would go down. We would have a price decrease. And in reality, all he could ever really hope for was that they would keep going up, but at a slower rate, more back to normal, and that wages would outstrip them. But he actually explicitly promised you would see the overall price level decrease, which was just never going to happen. It's just you don't really see deflation in an advanced modern economy like the one that we have. And so when you set that up with the fact that then he went and started the Iran war, which caused fuel prices to skyrocket, which then affects all, the entire economy. And now we have these numbers increasing, including producer prices, which have come out and are even higher than the consumer price index. And those may downstream into more consumer price increases as well. The whole thing is an absolute disaster. And then he goes out there and makes it worse by making this kind of asinine statement. It's genuinely just mind-boggling, but it's like so many things that hold back President Trump and haunt him. It's basically entirely of his own making, from the verbal mishaps to the policy decisions that are backfiring to the setting himself up with these outrageous expectations. I just find it all to be astonishing, but it really does. It's kind of a microcosm of how his presidency has gone off the rails. At least that's my take. You guys will have to let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure you're subscribed if you aren't yet. Hit the like button, and that'll be it for today. We'll be back with more real soon.